Good morning, Year 11. So if you missed today's assembly, this is what we were talking about. We were discussing how we can use the Cornell notes method to revise. So first things first, why should you take notes? Why is it so important? So this minimises your rate of forgetting. If you don't take notes, you will forget 60% of what you've learned in 14 days. If you take some notes, you'll remember 60%. And if you take organised notes and do something with them, like I'm going to show you today, you'll remember 90 to 100% indefinitely. So this is what the Cornell note-taking method looks like. So you're going to divide your page into 3. In the margin side, on the left, you're going to make it slightly bigger than your margin. So it's going to be about 1/3 of the page. On the right hand side, you're going to have 2/3, and you're going to leave a small gap at the bottom for a summary. So at the top, you should make a note of what the topic is. So this morning in assembly, we talked about cells. And as you watch your Century videos or Hegarty Maths or whichever revision guru on YouTube that you're using, you want to record the key notes of what you've been listening to. Okay, so you want to use concise sentences, you want to write in your own words, you want to use any key information or key facts. After you have recorded those notes, you want to move to the margin and you want to make some questions or cues to help you remember the information that you've learned. So for example, if you have written on the right hand side that Macbeth is a tragic hero who is someone who suffers from a fatal hamartia, the question that you write on the left might be, what is a tragic hero? Or what is hamartia? The answer will be in your notes. So if you can't remember the answer, you know that you need to go back to revise. So when you revise, you want to revise those notes over and over, read them, recite, you want to try and remember what's on there, and then cover them up and see if you can answer the questions that you've written in the left. At the bottom, you just want to write a brief summary. What's the main information? What's the key takeaway? What's the one thing that you have to remember from that? So when should you be taking notes? So you should make a note whenever you are learning. So you could do that when you're watching a revision video, particularly the Century videos or Hegarty Maths. Whenever you're reading a text, Blood Brothers, Macbeth, A Christmas Carol. Whenever you're watching a film of the text that you're studying. When you're working in a group or an activity, you could make notes. Whenever you need to recall information about what happened in class. So if you're doing an experiment in science, or you're listening to a revision lecture from a teacher, or during intervention. So what else can you place on the left hand side? So obviously I know for English what my questions are going to look like. It might be, what is an adverb? It might be, how does Shakespeare present the character of Macbeth? It might be, who is to blame for the death of a character? I know what my questions are going to be, but in places, other subjects, you might add key terms, vocabulary words, dates. You might use diagrams or figures. You might use page references. You might use the steps in a solution. You might make notes to yourself about actions that you could take. And what are some of the good tips for taking the notes on the right hand side? Write in your own words, you should paraphrase. You could write using abbreviations, check a dictionary. You could draw a figure or a diagram. You could leave a space where you think you've got a gap that you need to go check with the teacher. You could use bullet points, arrows, you could indent, you could list key ideas. You need to remember to write legibly, and if you struggle with your handwriting, type your notes, set up a Google Doc with the format made in PowerPoint, and then you can set it up and just copy it as needed. So what are the steps to taking Cornell notes? You want to set up your page, set it out correctly. You then want to draw your margins, label your margins clearly. You want to take your notes using your best strategies. You want to actively listen, analyse, ask questions when you're watching your videos. Then you want to review, revise, reflect by looking over your notes, highlighting, editing, adding information, writing questions and reflections. So this is what an example might look like. So we can see here we've got the questions that might be asked and our notes. So this is on the cardiovascular system. You can see key information has been underlined. You know, this person has added pretty pictures, and if that helps you take them in, feel free to do that. But you'll notice on the left, it matches the answers that you've got on the right. So how do the respiratory and cardiovascular system work together? And we've got our answers. It works together. It's heart, blood vessels and blood, and it's a transportation system for the body. So we can see the answers are there, and at the bottom we've got the summary or reflection, and it tells you what the key information was. So that's what Cornell Notes is. If anyone's struggling, come back and see me at any point and I'll give you a hand on that.